I'm going to call the appointment committee to order at 3:03 here on Tuesday, June 8th. We're meeting remotely because there was a good order by Governor Baker that allowed us to do so last March 2020. We do have minutes to approve from last time. I don't remember what the date was.
5/27. Can we do that with two of us present?
Yeah, well, JP wasn't there, so he can't vote on them anyway.
All right. So yeah, it would be from May 27th, I believe is the last one that I have that I pulled up.
Okay.
So I will make a motion to approve the minutes from May 27th.
And I second that. And so, are you in favor?
Flood is an aye.
Lindsay's an aye. Okay. So moved. They are approved. I'll let the public speak first. Lindsay's here. Did you want to say something, Lindsay, before we go into our agenda items?
Yeah, so I mean, not public speak, but hi, Erica. Lindsay from the mayor's office. I just wanted to let the appointment committee know that since I handled the appointments on my end in our office, if there are, I know Lindsay had talked about ways to revamp the process, and Peg had mentioned how to change our application. So now that we are all getting back to what we knew as normal, and I'm in the office 4 days a week, I am here to support the committee in any capacity that I can, and our residents to make applying an easier process. And I'm also going through the website redesign for the city right now and hoping to have an online application as well to make it more accessible. So just so everyone on the committee is aware, I'm here to support you guys, and however we need to change the processes to make them more efficient, let's do it. I'm here.
Great. Do you have anything to say, Erica, about that?
I think that sounds fantastic, Lindsay. And would you be able to send us a link when that application online is available? And then I think it would be great if members of the appointment committee could share it out, maybe on social media.
Yeah.
Great.
The new website is planned to go live on July 15th. So I will hopefully have information before then that we can advertise as city council and mayor staff and things like that. So we'll get it out to the public as soon as we have information to do that.
Fantastic.
Okay, good. And I think the flow chart you've been sharing with people has been helpful. And then we kind of reinforce the education of that process.
Yeah.
I guess we have Brad here who's in the process. Brad, do you have anything to say about like finding the application? Did it make sense to you, the process I know you're on another committee, but I don't know if it's a different experience than the first time you went through it.
I think it's honestly fine. I mean, I thought it honestly would be a lot harder than it actually is. So credit to who designed the process.
Okay, good. We want it to be easy. We don't.
Yeah. We want to encourage the public to volunteer their time to help make their community a better place, not discourage it. So, all right, I'm going to jump off. Have a great meeting. I'll talk to you all later.
Sounds great. Thanks. I just want to say, Erica, Elizabeth Rist, I reached out to Dan Rist to see if she got my email, and he said she had written me back, but I didn't receive it. So we're not going to go through. We're probably not going to vote on her this meeting. But we don't actually. There's the next council meeting. There's not going to be committee reports. So, just so you know, too, Brad, we're not going to be able to recommend any of our recommendations to the full council till the first meeting in July. So it's not really going to delay Beth Rist's application if we have to wait to have another meeting. Anyway, just putting that out there. Okay, so hello, Brad. Thanks for joining us today. You've been appointed by the mayor to the board, to the Housing Authority, and so your first question we asked was, why are you interested in serving? And I think you know what, I'd like to attach his to the minutes. So maybe I might even go back and attach other people's when they write it in writing to the minutes. But
I've been including those in previous renditions.
Yeah.
When we get them in
when
writing.
we get stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, great. So yeah, continue. So these will be in our minutes too, Brad. But it's great to meet you. And you wrote something thorough here, but I'll let you just talk out loud and just reiterate it in your own words why you're interested in serving with the Housing Authority.
Yeah, I mean, right, like obviously you read the answers. So, housing insecurity has been something that's been a part of my life ever since the day I was born. And I've kind of made this natural progression through being a service user for, Section 8 and transitional housing programs, to starting to work in the entry-level areas of those organizations. And now that, I have, some experience with municipal work under my belt, and, I'm working on my second master's, I feel like I'm putting myself in a position where, I have the academic requirements to be able to do the kind of work, and also the lived experience requirements that I think would be beneficial to the board, and also beneficial to the people who live in the housing that we oversee.
Great. I really thought it was interesting, your focus on epidemiology and housing, and I'm just curious more about that. If you want to explain, like.
Yeah, sure. So I'll try to like bring it down into like everyday language. So I just finished a pretty big project for a medical anthropology course that I took this past year. And so some of the things that I was looking at is, so for example, a recent piece of legislation that was passed allowed for multifamily dwelling units to be built in MBTA communities. And I think it was like a half mile within an MBTA stop. We needed to have high density multifamily unit complexes being built that were affordable. But my concern with that was that the MBTA transit system acts as a functional hub for vector transmission. So, if you get inside of a bus, or if you get inside the subway system, you're interacting with a lot of different people in a closed environment where you're susceptible to, obviously, COVID-19, influenza, tuberculosis, and then particularly because the populations are lower income, the rates of that disease transmission is naturally higher in those communities. So when you compound the access to the transportation with the high density residential living scenarios, I was afraid that there's kind of a perfect storm for brewing, respiratory disease. I also looked at different types of allergies that are found in these types of housing complexes. So, cockroach allergies, dust, pollutants, mold if the buildings aren't taken care of. And then, just kind of looked at like the different social gradients of health, how much more disproportionately impacted this community is. And then the last piece that I did with that project was I looked at the air filtration systems for the MBTA transit, and looked at air changes per hour, plus the quality of the MERV filters. And then really kind of made an assessment that there are some communities, particularly I focused on Mattapan, Massachusetts, that is at a high risk for contracting respiratory disease and spreading it, because the transit system that they would utilize has an air filtration system that's over 50 years old, and the filtration units that they use don't filter out, I guess I'll just call them like water droplets. But basically, like if you sneeze and you have influenza, then whatever the size of the water droplet is that the influenza is in, if you don't have an air filtration system that is fine enough to filter out those droplets, then they just kind of circle around on the inside of the vehicle. So it's really things like that. And then there's also social epidemiology, which is, how classism makes you sicker, or how racism can make you sicker, or, how healthcare professionals prioritize pain and suffering for poor people versus rich people. So lots of things like that.
Wow, that's really fascinating work that you're doing. Did you have a question right now, Erica, or did you?
No questions. I just wanted to thank Brad for sharing your background and your personal story. I think that it's very powerful for us to share our stories with our communities. And I'm really fascinated by the work that you're doing. And I just think we're very lucky to have someone like you step up and serve on these committees that you are. And I'm excited to just follow the work you're doing and really want to thank you for your time.
Yeah, I concur. I'm curious, to be honest, I don't know much specifically about what the work the Housing Authority in Easthampton does. And I'm curious as to what you're looking forward to kind of learning with the Housing Authority, doing with the Housing Authority in Easthampton specifically.
Yeah, I mean, so, admittedly, I don't know much either about the work that they're doing. I haven't had a chance to collaborate with anyone that's on the board there. So, I don't have any working relationships with them yet. But how I see myself being an effective board member is, for the first couple of months, I'm going to want to read through everything that is on record at the Housing Authority. I'm going to go through all the former minutes, look at the different initiatives or programs that they're working on. Ideally, I'd like to do site visits for some of the properties, particularly because if there are areas, right, that I think that could pose potential public health issues. And this, I'm not saying like if it's, a disaster, but if there's something that we can do better, we should probably do better. And, in my experiences working with you all in City Council or the other different committees, I feel like if the money's there, the heart is always there too. So, I want to be able to see how I can best serve the people that are in those programs. And then I think also, I have a certification in positive psychology. So I just want to bring a better environment, a better energy to the work. It's just something that I always do. I like encouraging people. I like shouting out when people are having personal growth or when they get successes. And I know that we do that well in Easthampton, but I still think in government roles, that doesn't happen enough. So, I want to be a change agent, and I also want to be someone that encourages and fosters positive growth. So. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm delighted to meet you. And I'm looking forward to hopefully after you're on the Housing Authority a little bit and done a little bit of your research, and I'm sure Councilor Flood would concur. I would love to, we can go out and have coffee in a public post-pandemic coffee and learn. I mean, City Council is a very wide, it's a big role and it's hard to know about everything. And so what I do is I trust meeting people that are involved in a deeper level in different areas of the city and building those connections so that I can be educated. So I look forward to being educated by you as you learn. So please, I'll reach out to you, but please don't hesitate to reach out to me and say, hey, I've got a good kind of initial assessment. I'd love to have coffee and educate you about what I see going on in the city.
Yeah.
So,
Brad, just so you know, I'm making the minutes and I have two screens going. So this is why you see me sort of multitasking.
Of course, no problem.
I always like to let people know that I am not playing Animal Crossing over here.
I do the minutes for the partnership too. So sometimes I'm just like, and then I'm like, oh, what was that? Can you go back again? Or sometimes I have to think before I respond to a statement because I'm in the process of typing in real time.
Yeah, so you understand. That's good.
It's hard to take minutes. And just for the record, in case people are not reading our minutes and they're just watching the video, if you want to summarize, you have a lot of great engagement in the communities, but if you want to just kind of summarize how you've been engaged in Easthampton.
Yeah. So, what I wrote in the in that question there, obviously the first couple of things that I started on were almost like rogue involvement.
Yeah, I like that.
I was just trying to think initially. So, well, actually, I moved to Easthampton about 10 years ago. And, it was just kind of a fluke. My partner got a job down here, so we moved. And, I was like, I don't know, like maybe we'll stay a little while. We'll see how it goes. And like a couple of years into staying here, I was like, I think this might actually be like home. Like, even if we change jobs, like I just want to stay in Easthampton. It's like just small enough that you can get to know people, but it's just big enough that you always get to meet new people. And then I was trying to think like, how can I be better, or how can I help the city be better? And so the initial thing with Nancy Follansbee was, it was born out of a Facebook group. And there was this woman out in, I think it was in Nebraska, and she was like starting this campaign on how to reach out to local politicians or people in charge of schools on erasing student lunch debt for low-income students. And it's like me, everything that I have a lived experience with, I feel like I want to make it better for other people. So I knew that shame of going into a school and like worrying, like, is the person at the counter going to say that I can't have this because I don't have any money or my parents didn't pay? And whether they do it or not, that kind of internal turmoil as you're moving through the line. And, I was like, if I could get rid of that for kids in Easthampton, then I'm going to at least try. So I reached out to her and, made the initial pitch, described how it could work, some different solutions. And so I wasn't able to follow through with the program because I wasn't an employee of the school district. So, I couldn't work hands-on with, some of the families on getting rid of this debt because it was like a privacy thing, which was fine. And, I trusted Nancy. I felt like she was a really good superintendent here in Easthampton. So I feel like it probably had good follow-through, never found out. And then the other thing was there was like this really crazy like right-wing media person, I guess, or maybe it's a group.
Yeah, Turtle Boy, I'm aware of him.
Yeah. And I just felt like there was so many people doing good things in Easthampton, and they would periodically write these stories about people in Easthampton that were doing good and, kind of vilifying them. And so one of the things that had happened, I don't know if you remember, was all of those "Our Neighbor" signs. People were going around the neighborhood and like ripping them off of people's lawns, which to me, I felt like that was somebody trying to silence how welcoming we are as people. So, I worked with the people who produced the signs and said, what can we do to, get all these signs replaced? I don't want the people who had their signs stolen to have to buy another one. So that was the kind of stuff that I did before, which was, taking small wins whenever you can get them. But then obviously the partnership was the biggest one so far. So I have been with the partnership now for maybe 15 or 16 months. I'm not really sure. It was honestly right as COVID started. And, my daughters had just grown up and they were going off to college. And then like all the dorms were like, nope, we're shutting everything down. And so then it just kind of became this natural progression where they needed to have apartments. So we had one daughter moving into her own apartment out in Portland, Maine, and then my other daughter moving into her own apartment just outside of Worcester. So I had empty nest syndrome. I had like a bleeding heart for wanting to do good for people. And there was literally nothing else to do. So, I was like scrolling through like the Easthampton website, like what can I actually do to get involved here? So I saw that there was openings on the partnership. I have the housing experience. So, that's pretty much what I've been doing all along. Yeah.
Well, great. This is, again, a delight to meet you. I'm really happy that you're stepping up to be on the Housing Authority. I believe that we need you there. And thank you for the work you're doing with the Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership.
I do have one question, if I might, and that was also in regards to one of your philanthropic involvements. You mentioned you were able to sponsor exams at a hospital. I'm just I'm trying to recall what I read. And I'd just be curious to know what that organization was. I thought it just sounded like really amazing, an amazing opportunity.
Yep. So it's actually, it's a personal project of Paul Farmer. So he's epidemiologist, oncologist. He's a bunch of things anyways. But so he started off at Brigham and Women's Hospital. So, he was moving up the ranks, working with people who had chemotherapy, and, living in the isolation towers. And then he started doing his own philanthropic work out in Haiti. And so he was focusing more on like the HIV epidemic there, tuberculosis outbreaks. And so basically what he does is he works in Boston. I think Partners in Health might actually be a Harvard program now. So I think he's technically working at Harvard. But so he works for a couple of months out of the year here. And then for the rest of the year, he uses his own money and he built a hospital out in Haiti. And so, I read a lot about him in my research. And so I was also coincidentally, when my mother was staying in the isolation towers at Brigham and Women's, he was also in charge there. So it's just like a weird kind of serendipitous connection. But so, I reached out to the organization and I was like, how can I help? And they were saying that, to maximize your US dollars, if you donate to the hospital down in Haiti, you can cover X amount of things, this is what such and such costs or whatever. So I asked them, what is it going to cost to pay for someone's daily physical, to come in, get blood work done, get a checkup? And then I just took that dollar amount and multiplied it by 365, and then gave them the money. So it's one person every day, doesn't have to worry about paying out of pocket. Because obviously these people don't have health insurance or, any kind of social support system. So he's basically the closest thing they have to a support system. So I just wanted to put some money behind that because, it was only maybe like $400 or $500, but like that's like one checkup for one person in the United States. You know what I mean? So, so I figured, how can I use what little resources I have to stretch it the most? And Haiti's one of those countries where you can do a lot of good for a little amount of money.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that as well. It's very powerful.
Yeah. Well, would you like to make a motion? I'll entertain.
Yes, and can I, because I arrived late, I usually have my agenda pulled up in front of me.
Oh.
Could you just remind me the term expiration?
Sure, December 31st, 2022.
Okay, great. So I will make a motion to appoint, right? No, the mayor's appoint. I'm having a plan. To recommend Brad Riley for appointment to the Housing Authority with a term expiring December 31st, 2022.
And I second that. All in favor?
Gladys and I.
Lindsay's and I. Okay. So
Great.
Moved. Thank you, Brad, for showing up. And I look forward to meeting up with you and learning more from you.
So just so I know, so the next step you said was July, correct? July.
So yeah, the first Wednesday in July is the next meeting that we get to report out. And we will then recommend you to the full council, and I'll take a vote as a full council to whether or not to confirm your appointment. And then that goes back to the mayor's office, and then they contact you to follow up to, get you on the committee or on the board.
Okay, perfect.
So that's how it goes through. But yeah, so it's been really nice for us to be able to meet people going on to the boards and the committees, and just like you said, reinforce what a great city this is, and just so many people stepping up with so many skills and to make it happen. So it's pretty exciting.
Yep. I'm excited to get started. I think I'll probably I don't know that you'll technically see me, but I'll be at the next city council meeting just to support some initiatives that are going on. And I think Valley CDC is going to be giving a presentation. It might be with you, or it could actually be with the Community Preservation Act Committee. But either way, there's a couple of things coming up. I'll be around. So
okay,
it might
good.
just be like a little black square with my name. So
All right, well, at least now we can picture you.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm good with everything for today.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Great.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brad.
All right. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
So then, Lindsay, I would make a motion to adjourn. I would move to adjourn, I think. Is that
And I will second that. And so we're now adjourning. I'll stop the recording.
3:28?